We're going to bring it from 25% to 50% the tariffs on steel. We are in intensive negotiations with the Americans and in parallel preparing reprisals if those negotiations do not succeed. We have retaliatory tariffs on over $90 billion worth of US goods. Imagine waking up one morning to find your closest ally, your neighbor, your trading partner, your supposed friend has just stabbed you in the back. Not with words, but with steel. Literally, what if I told you this betrayal wasn't from a rival country, but from someone you trusted the most? And the person delivering the retaliation isn't a politician in the usual sense. He's a man of finance, a global name with ice in his veins and numbers in his soul. This is not just a political drama, this is a power move. And it begins with a stormy message from Mark Carney. In the heat of rising global tensions, the United States under President Donald Trump made a shocking move. Out of nowhere, Trump slapped a 50% tariff on Canadian steel, a brutal strike that sent shockwaves through the economic fabric of North America. We're going to bring it from 25% to 50% the tariffs on steel. Canada wasn't at war. Canada hadn't cheated or stolen, and yet it was punished harshly. The world watched in disbelief. Why would the US target Canada, its peaceful neighbor? What was Trump thinking? While most expected a diplomatic, soft-spoken reply from the Canadian side, what they got was something else entirely. Enter Mark Carney, former governor of the Bank of Canada and later the Bank of England. A man known for being calm, calculated, and always 10 steps ahead. But this time, he didn't hold back. Carney stepped forward, not with a speech filled with apologies or negotiations, but with fire in his tone and strategy in his words. Mr. Speaker, the American tariffs, the new tariffs on steel and aluminum, are unlawful, unjustified, and illogical. I agree with applause that. That is why one of the reasons why we have retaliatory tariffs on over $90 billion worth of US goods. It wasn't just about defending Canadian steel, it was about defending Canada's dignity, its economy, and its position in the global order. And what he said left everyone stunned. But here's the twist. Carney didn't just fire back politically. He struck where it would hurt Trump the most. And it wasn't in Washington. It was somewhere far more personal, far more strategic. We have retaliatory tariffs on over $90 billion worth of US goods. We are in intensive negotiations with the Americans and in parallel preparing reprisals if those negotiations do not succeed. In his calculated response, Carney set a trap, a financial one, and it was hidden in plain sight. Now listen carefully. With this 50% tariff, Trump is not hurting Canada, but actually harming his own country and his own people. We're going to bring it from 25% to 50% the tariffs on steel, but we've already lost significant jobs and customers, and we'll never see those back. We need responses immediately. Who tweeted he's taken note of what Trump has said and promised to defend workers and community? Our old relationship with the United States is over. I think you're going to see shipments from Canada to the United States completely stop. I want to ensure that France and the whole of Europe works enthusiastically with Canada, the most European of non-European countries. So as things stand, this is a break, not a break up. But if Trump keeps this up, you never know. Trump just detonated a trade war bomb on America's closest ally, Canada. With a single sentence, he turned economic partnership into economic warfare. No negotiations, no warnings, just a 50% steel tariff, double the 25% he slapped on back in April. The message, America first, has no room for neighbors. We're going to bring it from 25% to 50% the tariffs on steel into the United States of America, which will even further secure the steel industry. Donald Trump believes tariffs are weapons, and he's firing them like missiles. But this one doesn't just hit Canada, it shakes the very foundation of North America's economic alliance. When he announced the 25% tariff on April 2nd, Canadian steel producers were already scrambling. Businesses paused shipments. Manufacturers held emergency calls. Now he's doubling it. This isn't a policy, it's an ambush. Trump claims this move will secure the steel industry, but what he's really doing is securing political points with his base at the cost of cross-border stability. These tariffs aren't protecting American steel, they're isolating American industries. Nearly half of U.S. steel imports come from Canada, an ally, not a rival. Defense contractors, aerospace giants, car manufacturers, all of them depend on Canadian steel. Raising the tariff to 50% is like choking your own oxygen supply and expecting to breathe better. Behind closed doors in Washington, this move sparked quiet panic. Officials inside the Commerce Department reportedly warned of immediate disruptions. The White House hasn't even completed the legal framework yet. Trump's going public. This kind of economic chaos used to come from unstable markets, not the President of the United States. Replacing Canadian supplies easier said than done for key American industries like aerospace and defense with Canada as the largest steel and aluminum supplier to the U.S. Prime Minister Mark Carney spent much of 2018 the campaign pushing back against Trump's tariffs, instead leaving it to the Canada-US Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc, who tweeted he's taken note of what Trump has said and promised to defend workers and community. Trump has promised the tariffs would come in on June 4th, but he hasn't signed anything to make that official, which could lead to a movie we saw back in March. He has made the decision to add a 25% tariff. So now steel aluminum tariffs will come into effect tomorrow at the rate of 50%. The administration ended up quickly backing down before those additional tariffs came into force. But the constant threats underscore the chaos that is rapidly hurting Canadian businesses. This isn't just bad policy, it's dangerous. Canada is the #1 steel and aluminum supplier to the US. You can't rip out half of your supply chain overnight and pretend nothing will break. Aerospace and defense sectors tied directly to national security are at risk. Canadian steel is not a luxury, it's a necessity. And yet Trump is pushing forward without even signing the official order. We've seen this movie before: loud declarations, legal confusion, and last-minute backpedaling. But while Washington dithers, real damage is being done across Canada. Orders are frozen, contracts are suspended, jobs are on the line. Businesses don't operate in limbo. They need certainty, not chaos. The deeper issue is trust. For decades, Canada stood by the US in war, in peace, in trade. Now Trump is rewriting the rulebook mid-game. This isn't negotiation, it's provocation. And while Trump plays economic roulette, Canada is preparing to walk away from the table entirely. Enter Mark Carney, Canada's new Prime Minister, an economist with deep European roots and zero tolerance for Trump's unpredictability. He isn't tweeting insults, he's drafting strategy. And his silence on Trump's latest move, that's not weakness, that's calculation. He's letting his trade minister speak for now. But make no mistake, Carney's next move could redraw alliances for good. The 50% tariff isn't just about steel. It's a trigger point one that may push Canada straight into Europe's arms, ending decades of North American unity. It wasn't just a policy, it was a punch in the gut. That's how Canada's top steel executive described Trump's 50% tariff announcement. Not strategy, not negotiation, just brute force from an unpredictable partner. The kind of move that doesn't just hurt business, it shakes national confidence. We've had months and months with months of disarray and uncertainty. So this is yet another, punch in the gut, if you will, from the president on the domestic steel industry here in Canada. We're their largest trading partner in steel. They're our largest trading partner as well. And we're highly integrated and, simply put, we do not understand at all why this is happening, and it will have negative consequences. I obviously negative consequences in Canada with the domestic steel industry in many forms, but it will also have significant consequences to the United States in terms of security of supply and in terms of pricing. Well, the president actually did do this once before, just ahead, I think it was in mid-March. And, we thought at that point, so I guess we always know there's a risk unpredictability with the president, but did we expect this? Absolutely not. And we didn't expect tariffs in the first place, given the business that I was describing earlier and how integrated we are with the United States. It's completely unjustified. The voice of Catherine Cobden isn't just a corporate opinion, it's the cry of an entire industry.